was a pretty brutal game.
I get an old.
850.
Oh, shoot. Oh, God.
Now they're merged.
There's a house that I got. Actually,
Chicago have these tickets every time.
houses need. And if they come up, I'm gonna call you.
I mean, that's
I missed you last.
I'm going to start the February 24th, 2025 meeting at 4 p.m. Will the clerk take the roll?
Ken Astorita.
Here.
Peter Britton.
Here.
Melissa Longo.
Here.
Brooke Faracino. Here. Tara Cook Littman.
Here.
Megan McCloat. Dave Rock. Chris Shea. District 3, Mike Hardigan, do you have an announcement to make?
Mike Hardigan, District 3. District 3 Representative Cindy Wapnitsky has stepped down from the role. Per the process, District 3 representatives have elected Bob Ellinger to replace her.
Bob Ellinger.
Here.
Mike Hardigan.
Here.
Jeff Steele.
Here.
Cindy Waldron. Here. Laura Carson. Here. Phil McCabe. Here. Spalier. Here. Liz Esma.
Here.
Josh Garskoff.
Here.
Kristen O'Neill. Here. Sarah Pastilli.
Here.
Here.
Rob Blanchard.
Here.
Steve Donnie.
Here.
Eric Truniak.
Here.
Alex Ocampo.
Here.
Steve Barretts.
Here.
Lori Burns Gildenzi. Here. Jen Kuhn.
Here.
Scott Nickel.
Here.
Lenny Brayman.
Here.
Chris Carroll.
Here.
Colin Colburn.
Here.
Christine Ludwizak. Here. Drew Georgiadis. Lisa Havey. Mark McDermott.
Here.
Darren Wackerman. Here. Matt Ambrose.
See him on the chat.
Justin Contrado.
Here.
Margaret Horton. Here. Pierre Ratsky.
Here.
Let's all stand for the pledge. Right.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on our agenda is to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular monthly meeting held on January 27th, 2025. We have a motion to approve. Representative Sesma, seconded by Representative Pastilli. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none from the body, is there any public comment on the minutes? Seeing none, we will take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Last week, we heard reports from the Affordable Housing Committee and the Economic Development Commission. Four, we'll move on to agenda item, the consent calendar. Agenda item 5, which was the appointment of new parts to the Ethics Commission. Item 6, the appointment of Greg Valente as an alternate to the Historic District Commission. Item 7, the appointment of Joseph Quinn Jr. to the Employees Retirement Board. Item 9, the $5,000 MetroCog grant for our Safer Streets program. And item 10, the lease at 385 to 409 Quincy Street are on our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Carroll, seconded by Representative Rock. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The consent calendar passes. Moving on to agenda item 8. Here, consider and act upon the following resolution recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that in accordance with a request from the police chief, a grant agreement between Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office and the town of Fairfield for the Fairfield Police Department's distracted driving high visibility enforcement program be and hereby is approved. And further resolved that acceptance of the grant funds and their appropriation for the purposes set forth in the grant agreement be and hereby are approved. We have a motion to approve. Representative Waldron, seconded by Representative Nichols. Chief Calamaris is here today to give us some information about this item. It can also be found on pages 29 to 52 of our backup. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Evening, everyone. I'll just take this. From January 21 to October 24, Fairfield police officers have issued approximately 2,945 distracted driving infractions in the town of Fairfield through the efforts of the traffic unit, patrol officers, and state-funded distracted driving grants. These grants provide critical resources to increase enforcement and reduce this dangerous behavior on our roads. Our primary goal is to reduce injury and fatal crashes caused by distracted driving, especially those involving handheld mobile devices. Under high visibility enforcement efforts and Connecticut's mobile electronic device ban, our officers will continue targeting high-risk areas and educating drivers to the dangers of distracted driving. Stop, citation, and educational moment contributes to prevent our roadways safer for all. This is a highway safety office grant for $49,920 that goes from April 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2025, where officers will be out there driving in 3 locations: Pete's Avenue, Kings Highway, and Post Road.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion on this item? On up.
Hi, Laura Carson, District 4. But I'm questioning the way that it's funded. Paid upfront by the municipality and it's applied from the government to the federal government. Is that what I heard? It's really government.
Well, the funds come from the federal government through the state and the state highway safety office.
Okay, so I'm just concerned with what's going on, that may cut them over. The federal didn't send it back. Us anything back? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the body? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public regarding item 8 on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, Chief Calamaris. Moving on to item number 11, to consider and act upon amendments to the vehicles and traffic ordinance, section 102-4, section 102-7. Vote with the town of Fairfield, sponsored by Dave Rock, District 2, Michelle McCabe, District 4, Chris Carroll, District 8, Christine Ledsack, District 8, Karen Wackerman, District 9, and Pierre Vasky, District 10. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Carroll, seconded by Representative McCabe. Is there any discussion or questions on this? Representative Hardigan.
Mike Hardigan, District 3. I want to thank Representative McCabe, the others who worked on this proposed amendment. Thank Chief Calamaris for answering questions, demonstrating why Fairfield has an interest in this. I do believe the intent and interest behind this proposal is improving safety on our streets and accomplishing that in a cost-effective manner, both of which I am in support of. I am going to vote no in this proposal, and I'll explain why. I came to my decision by talking to a number of data security professionals and a lot of people in my own district and community. Proposed traffic cameras will be installed and operated by a third-party vendor, collects the data, then sends the information back to the town. Will make a determination whether or not there is an infraction. Although no personally identifiable information should be sold, we require that evidence be destroyed after 90 days. There will still be plenty of valuable data to sell. Last month, I gave an example of 100 BMWs passing through an intersection, but that data could be anything like that. Red cars, old cars, cars with bumper stickers. The data is going to be the real value to the vendor. I don't know what the town of Fairfield will be charged for the operation, maintenance of the camera system, but I'm willing to bet it is significantly less than the amount of money to be made off selling the data. We won't have any say over how this data is used or distributed. Suppose the vendor sells the data to an insurance company, which is an extremely likely scenario. Anyone who works in insurance knows that they're, at this point, largely data collection companies. A person might have no infraction themselves, but be identified by the insurance company as living in a high-risk area. 75 traffic tickets were issued in their neighborhood in a week. That person's insurance rates might go up through no fault of their own. We'll have no ability to hold anyone accountable for repercussions we haven't foreseen. It would be incredibly easy for a vendor to set up their system in a way that is profitable for themselves and not the town of Fairfield. What's stopping a vendor from designing the system to do anything outside of what we ask? Could they target a certain make and model of cars to report infractions on? Could they adjust their systems by a quarter of a second and issue faulty evidence? Where would the quality control come from? We would have no ability to make someone answer questions they don't want to answer. The current setup, we can have a conversation with the police department or Chief Calamaris, express our concerns, discuss change. Under a contract with a third-party vendor, our only recourse might be to terminate the contract, and the damage might already be done. State that the vendor is going to have to adhere to Connecticut data privacy laws. What if the company doesn't really need to? How are we going to enforce Connecticut data privacy laws on a vendor based in another country? Are we going to have a specialized data security attorney who's continually up to date on all the advancements in technology, reviewing our contracts? I have heard arguments that everything is already on video, everyone already has phones. The town already employs security cameras at schools and libraries. The difference is those cameras aren't taking the video they record and sending them somewhere else. That information is stored on our own servers for our own use. And there is a difference between a surveillance system set up by a Costco and one set up by your own government. Costco doesn't make and enforce the laws. Costco can't imprison people. I understand the current proposal is for cameras, locations where we all want safe streets, but I would have to look long and hard to find an example of government surveillance that continued to operate how it was initially designed. And there are countless examples of government surveillance eventually far surpassing its original purpose. And while I might trust the intentions of the people proposing the system now, I don't know who's going to be in charge of this system down the road. The main reason I am against this is because of the incredible rate of change we've seen in technology in the past 5 years. 10, 15 years ago, I might have been in favor of this, but editing digital video used to be a specialization. You used to need an education, experience, expensive equipment.
And today, every kid has access to free video editing software on their phones, and they use it regularly. They make and send each other edited videos all the time on a daily basis. I'm not talking about over the top, obviously fake videos, talking about simple run-of-the-mill editing. If they're all growing up with the ability to cut and edit video, why would they believe that a company getting paid to record traffic violations isn't doing the same? Why would they accept it as evidence? The next generation of taxpayers in this town may look at video evidence from a third-party vendor the same way we might look at a contract signed in pencil. As it stands, I know I'm getting the testimony of a trained officer of the law who witnessed it themselves, and I think that's only going to hold more value in the future. And last thing to share, and I cannot make this up, I just drove this weekend into Long Island through an area with automated tolls, and they're operated by camera. Within an hour, I got a text message on my phone notifying me I had a toll violation. Click the link here and pay the bill from a Hotmail email address. I'm not going to fall for it, but I definitely would have to convince my parents not to. I don't know that we're prepared to handle this aspect of technology with our senior citizens, and I don't know that we're prepared, and I don't know that we're setting up the next generation for this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Piston.
Sir, Silly, District 5, Chief, I had some questions for you. Can you explain, like, when we enter into an agreement with a vendor, what the arrangements will be in terms of data privacy and what kinds of compliance issues we have, and then, what the standards are?
Sure. Let me just. There's a citation in the statute.
Chief, because if you can speak up a little bit, they're having a hard time hearing you, Chief. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if this is going to help, but I know there is a provision within the statute that required,
You need a few minutes to find it, Chief, because then I can call somebody else up in the meantime. Okay, thank you. Representative, any other members? Representative Ratsky.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Pierre Ratsky, District 10. I'm a co-sponsor of this ordinance, and obviously I encourage everyone to support it. And thank you to Member McCabe and Member Wackerman for your hard work, and to Chief Calamares for your support of this ordinance. This was vigorously discussed in LNA, and we had disagreements, and I recognize the legitimate concerns of some of our colleagues. But I think those concerns have been answered by our discussions and by the merit of this ordinance. First of all, traffic safety is a top priority. We get a lot of messages from our constituents about concerns over traffic violations. A child was hit in the school zone not that long ago. We want to make sure our kids can walk to and from school safely. There's been an alarming rise in antisocial driving behavior. You've heard Calamares about this. And this would reduce that. Studies have shown that when these cameras are implemented, they reduce traffic fatalities and other accidents. There's also adequate safeguards in the state law. It does not kick in until 10 miles over the speed limit. There's no points on your license. Data cannot be used for any other purpose. It is not allowed to target particular cars. The cameras are car neutral. They merely kick in when the speed limit is violated. And there's a high bar to install them in any place in the town. So I don't think that the fears that they will become ubiquitous are actually warranted. And the only proposal is to install 6 school zones. And again, it's a worthy cause, trying to make sure that our kids can go to and from school safely. We always retain the power if we feel that it's being abused or that the vendor is not living up to the purpose of the ordinance. So we always do retain that oversight power. We could always repeal the ordinance and return us to where we are now. But again, it is a worthy goal. I think this ordinance does have a temperate, moderate approach to the problem. There's adequate safeguards in the legislation, and I think that fear that it will become ubiquitous or that the data will be misused is belied by a careful reading of the state statute. So for those reasons, I ask that you support the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, any luck yet? Okay, next, the Rock.
Dave Rock, District 2, I'm a co-sponsor of this ordinance. I'm before you today in strong support of implementing the automated traffic enforcement safety device plan.
Speak up.
A little of.
Oh, more? Okay. This plan in 6 school speed zones across Fairfield. This is not about revenue. This is not about surveillance. This is about one thing and one thing only, keeping our children safe. Every day, thousands of kids travel to and from school, often on foot or by bike, relying on drivers to obey speed limits. Unfortunately, too many do not. Traditional enforcement alone is not enough, and we cannot have officers stationed at every school zone at all times. Speed cameras provide a proven, effective, and impartial tool to reduce speeding and prevent accidents before they happen. We know from other communities that these cameras work. Study shows how they reduce traffic incidents by up to 57% in school zones. The simple truth is that when drivers know there's accountability, they slow down. And when they slow down, lives are saved. I also want to address some misinformation that's come through the chats, emails that have come to us. Some believe this is a money grab. It is not. Fairfield Police Department has worked with the RTM every step of the way on this plan. Their priority is public safety, not revenue. Some believe that this is a waste of taxpayer money. It is not. The initial implementation will be funded using grant money or through processing fee payments to the vendor, and preferably not local taxpayer dollars. This is an investment in safety that aims to be without additional burden to our residents. Some worry about the concept of Big Brother, that the government overreaches. This is not about constant surveillance. Cameras are only activated when the driver is speeding in a designated school zone, ensuring that enforcement is focused strictly on protecting our children without infringing upon personal privacy. This initiative is not a rush decision. It was the result of a careful collaboration between the Fairfield Police Department and the RTM. Our law enforcement officials have been active advocates in this plan from the beginning. They have seen firsthand the dangers of speeding in school zones, and they know this technology will help them do their jobs more effectively. The police department fully supports this initiative because it allows them to focus their efforts on more critical policing needs while ensuring our children's safety remains a top priority. We trust our office, keep our community safe. Let's trust their expertise on this matter as well. This initiative aligns perfectly with our broader commitment to traffic safety, including our town's pledge to eliminate traffic-related deaths and serious injuries by 2034. Speed cameras are just one piece of that puzzle, but it's a critical one. By voting in favor of this ordinance, we are sending a clear message. Fairfield prioritizes safety, and Fairfield also protects its children. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this common sense measure, Safer Fairfield. And I would like to personally thank Representative McCabe for her incredible, diligent work on this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move back to Representative Pastilli. I think she has the answer to her question.
Yeah. But I also have a phone.
And she has more.
I found something, but it would probably take me a minute to get there, so.
Yeah, okay, so if we look on page 107 of the backup, there's section 102, disclosure of personally identifiable information. And related to this, I have a question for our town attorney here since he's here. So this section says no personally identifiable information shall be disclosed by the town or a vendor or any person, entity, including any law enforcement unit, except where the disclosure is made in connection with the charging, collection, and enforcement of the fines imposed pursuant to the article. I won't go on to read the rest, but my question for our town attorney peers is, if we pass this ordinance and it says specifically that PII can only be used for this specific reason, do we then ensure that the contract with the vendor is in compliance with the ordinance? And how do we do that, you know, in terms of PII?
So Phil Pierce, town attorney. So the contract will, I mean, when we get to that stage, we'll address this specifically, make sure it's not being disclosed, but it's also going to ensure that the vendor has to comply with local laws, which would require them to comply with the ordinance. So they would be in breach of the contract if they disclose personally.
So we have that safeguard as well. So when the vendor contract is negotiated, our attorneys will ensure that it's in compliance with our ordinance.
The only way for the contract to work is if it complies with the ordinance, and the ordinance mandates it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the body? Online, if you have it, just enter into the chat. Representative McCabe.
Representative McCabe, District 4. I want to thank all of my colleagues for all their hard work, and also Representative Lubwitzak, who was instrumental in asking a lot of really great questions to get us to this point today. Just wanted to bring up 2 points. One of them is not within the purview of the RTM for this ordinance, but is worth mentioning. Want to thank Representative Hartigan for asking important questions about privacy protection. My understanding is that the way that the town can implement this program, there are 3 options available to us in terms of a relationship with the vendor. There is the possibility for the town to control the entire process if I'm not. We can buy the cameras, we can, we're already by ordinance going to have town employee of some kind, a sworn member who is reviewing the violations as they would come to us from a vendor. However, that person, it could be their job and they're tasked with reviewing everything. And we send out all of the notifications, we control the whole process, which will come with a price and will come with responsibilities that will have to be borne by an employee, but that is a possibility. And then there are 2 other possibilities, probably more in terms of what the relationship with the vendor is like, which parts of it we want them to control, which parts of it we want to control. I don't know if the vendor contracts are going to be brought before the traffic authority, if there's opportunities for the public to weigh in, but I did want to bring up the point that there are options available to the town to safeguard our data use. And the worst case scenario of the vendor controlling much of everything. And then lastly, that even if the vendor is responsible for the vast majority of the data collection, at the end of the day, the quality control, it lies in the purview of the town to decide who is in fact receiving the violation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this? I'm gonna, Representative Steele.
Thank you. So we're not having a microphone.
It is.
Checked.
Jeff Steele, District 3. I first want to commend the committee. I've already spoken to Representative McCabe. I think you guys did a good job presenting this and answering questions, being patient with all of us. I do. And that's everyone involved in it. I have a couple questions. One is, there seems to already be a line item in the budget for, I think it's 875,000. I might be mistaken. For, I guess, first of all, is that 875 expected to be received between July 1st and June of next year? I mean, I guess it is, but I just want to confirm that that is the case. 2, if that is the case, I did back of the envelope calculations, and
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you look at an average of $50 ticket, that's 17,500 or 18,000 tickets over the course of a year, which is about 50 a day. Is 50 a day what is expected? Because I've heard people mention 7, I've heard other numbers. Is it around 50 a day? That would be a good amount. I know the goal is to slow people down, not to necessarily just be giving out tickets, but my first 2 questions, then I have a follow-up.
I think Chief Calmaris can answer that. I also think First Selectman Gerber, I'm not sure which one of you wants to answer that.
We've already talked about this at a meeting earlier today, so feel comfortable.
Yes.
So first of all, I think Chief Calamaris also should answer this because he did look into other towns and what they saw. While the goal is safety, not to make money, but I feel obligated based on certain campaign promises I made not to accumulate surpluses that could have avoided raising taxes. And so I kind of felt obligated, given what I felt was a pretty high probability of this passing. If it doesn't pass, we'll have to cut it. But so the way the calculation that I see it is 50 to 75, sort of, I just took an average dollar amount per ticket, $62.50, $875,000 divided by 6250, divided by 12, divided by either 6 or maybe 9, given that we're likely to have more other, school zones by the end of the year. There'll be probably some months with those in place. It's about 130 tickets per site per month. So that's kind of the way we looked at it. Doesn't seem like a lot to me, but
I don't know.
Chief Calmaris, do you want to elaborate?
No, I mean, I never did the calculations on it. I looked at what an outside vendor did an analysis in Milford, and I spoke to this today at the Board of Selectmen meeting. And I think they had proposed 9 or 10 different red light cameras, so we're comparing apples to oranges. But at the same time, they were projected 2.3 million for the first year, and I think 2.1 million for years after, following years, because people used the red light cameras being. So I think the number that the First Selectman put in the budget is very conservative. But, I mean, it's kind of a toss up. I'd be 500. It could be 1.5.
So,
and can I just add that if it's 0, I don't think anyone will be upset about that. I'll be pretty happy that they're working.
About 120 a month. Okay.
Yeah.
So and this is just a concern I'm voicing out loud. If people start learning where these cameras are, and I'm sure you guys have heard this issue, and everyone starts realizing when to slow down, where to slow down. Obviously, the goal is met, right? People are slowing down, but wouldn't that likely reduce the revenue significantly?
We hope, and actually, we're going to be putting signs up telling people there's a camera ahead. So the goal is to slow people down, but I think what Chief is saying is that with all that in place, people are still speeding for some reason.
Will that impact the finances and how this will be paid for, operated, and covered if the revenue goes down?
I would imagine a likely scenario is that you don't pay for the equipment. It's a arrangement with the vendor that installs them, and that you just
I am for safety. I walk around town, I ride my bike around town, and I'm for people not speeding. I'm a little concerned about, the term mission creep or this going beyond the scope of the schools. I know we say there are safeguards. I'm still, a little worried that this can be something that down the road, maybe it's in 5 years or whenever, this can soon cover the entire town. And that is back to the Big Brother being watched scenario that makes me a little uneasy. what Representative Hardigan said, I agree with that too. There is that risk as well. I think there's one town in Connecticut that has this implemented, town of Washington, and then I also heard Beacon Falls recently approved it a couple months ago. Stamford approved it in April, but no cameras in place yet. Small handful of towns. It seems there's no empirical data whether this is successful or is not. And I think we're barreling into this, whether the justification is right or wrong, without that data and knowing if it's something that is going to succeed. I'm a little concerned about that. Those are my concerns. Maybe they're not everyone else's, but I'm for safety. I think we don't really know how this is going to play out. I've got help. We all have those who oppose it saying, whether it's California or Long Island is not work been a disaster. I'm not saying this is going to be a disaster. I'm not going to call that out, but we don't know necessarily if this is going to work. We have no data because no towns have done it. I like being on the cutting edge of doing things unique and progressive, but at the same time, this involves money and everyday life. And I don't think right now we've got any sort of data that says this is going to be successful. That's my opinion. Oh, and I think if there were something in the ordinance that stipulated what the vendor would do or say or how that would be governed, would make me feel a little more comfortable.
Thank you. Representative Wolk.
Said it was 50 a day.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jay Wolk, District 5. So, just wanted to let Representative Steele know that the city of New Haven just passed cameras, red light cameras in their city. If not cameras, what's the solution? The solution to stop people from speeding or police officers. This town is not equipped to put on another, the traffic cops. I think the chief was like 5, 6 officers doing traffic in the city of how many people? They're not going to stop people from speeding. So it's a deterrent. So if we don't do cameras, we need to hire more police officers, and that's not going to happen. So why don't we give this a try, just to see how it works? You can pull it if it's not working properly, and the chief and it sees that it's not working. So anyway, I'm voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Colburn.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Colin Colburn, District 8. When I was 16 years old, I was driving on Brookside Drive in town, but right by St. Pius Church, going to high school. My sister was in the passenger seat with me. I probably got my license no less than 6 months before I was driving that road. Was definitely going over the speed limit, right through the, not right through, but one of the little tap of a brake right through the stop sign on Brookside Drive, where it intersects, I think, with Galloping Hill. And cop pulled me over, said, and he knew I was scared, Willis. And he said, I know you're probably really nervous, probably really scared. I'm going to give you a warning. Only going to give you a warning because I know that you need to know that the only thing worse than getting a ticket or getting pulled over by a cop is if you hurt yourself, hurt your sister, or hurt somebody else, God forbid. And I've thought of that moment many times beyond just driving on Brookside Drive. And that is what I believe is most necessary to actually curbing behavior. That's what we're talking about here, right? Like, we need to curb people's behavior. And while I do believe, and I really appreciate the work that you did on the ordinance here, I do believe in that it will stop people from driving in those school zones or wherever we put them. But it's not going to curb behavior long term. Beyond that half mile, what people are going to do, go right above the speed limit. So while I understand, there are mechanical issues behind hiring whatever staffing you would need for traffic, I am 1,000% in support of whatever we need to do to have more officers on the road, because they are our best deterrent in terms of education. That's really, I believe, what we need. And obviously there are other things going on education, but I really fundamentally believe that is a huge part of it. With that said, I have an amendment that I would like to propose.
You speak up a little bit, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. The amendment is fairly simple. In section 102.4, first paragraph, I would like to strike "and other places within the boundaries of Fairfield, Connecticut," so that the paragraph now reads, "Pursuant to the authority granted in Connecticut General Statutes, blah, 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 the town of Fairfield hereby authorizes the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices at locations within school zones and pedestrian safety zones, provided that," etc. The reason I'm putting this on the floor is because I believe it'll quell some of the concerns we've gotten from residents about.
Just gonna stop you 1 minute. I just need a second and then we can talk about the Representative Estrada. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Could you repeat it? I want to strike the change.
Yeah, what's the change?
I want to strike with
Start again from where it is in the ordinance.
102-4, he wants to remove "and other places."
Where is that first
Please
second?
what?
103.
paragraph
3.
1, section 102.4. In the middle of the paragraph, it says, and I want to strike "and other places boundary Fairfield, Connecticut," so that it will just be within school zones and pedestrian safety zones, provided that the locations of such devices are identified, etc. The reason I'm putting that on the floor is because I believe it'll quell some of the concerns that we have with our residents, many of whom I've spoken to in my district, who are worried about these going everywhere. Because to Representative Steele's point, I do think that as the vendor, the only way that you're going to make a profit on these is if you roll them out everywhere, because people are going to slow, which we want them to do. But then what do? They're no longer profitable. So you either have to totally get rid of them, which whole other issue, or you just roll them out into other places. And I think that is a legitimate concern I have. It's a legitimate concern I think our constituents have. And I think that we're still accomplishing this toolbox in our toolkit by having them be allowed in school zones and pedestrian safety zones.
Thank you. Now I will take motion or comments on the amendment, starting with Representative Garskott.
You, Madam Moderator, Josh Garskoff, District 5. Chief, could you, Madam Moderator, Chief, is there a limit to where we can put these? Is it state statute going to tell us where select zones are available and what are not? How free would the vendor and or the town be to put these in?
Sure. I'll read directly from the guidance from the Office of State Traffic Administration. An ATESD can only be installed in 4 types of locations: traffic control signals for red light running, that could be municipal or state roadways, school zones for speeding, pedestrian safety zones for speeding, or other locations for speeding. So, change the language. School zones refer to location meets the definition of a school zone, see Connecticut General Statute 1412B. School zone has been previously approved by the OSTA or local traffic authority. OSTA approves school zones on all state roads and all municipal roads where there is a change in the speed limit. LTA or local approves zones in municipal roads where there is no change in the speed limit. School zone signing is consistent with the manual on uniform traffic control devices. Pedestrian safety zones. The location meets the definition of a pedestrian safety zone under Statute 14307. A pedestrian safety zone has been previously approved by OSTA or the local traffic authority. And the pedestrian safety zone signing is consistent with MEP. The side note, no such, there are no pedestrian safety zones in the state of Connecticut. Other locations, written justification explaining how, why an ATESD was selected for the specific location, and a history of speed-related crashes or speeding violations. If any additional criteria for each type of location, that being school zone, pedestrian safety zone, or other location, is not submitted, then OSTA will consider the request to be incomplete and deny the request.
Thank you. And who would make that request?
Generally speaking, it would come from, if we had an area of town where, let's say it was a sharp curve, where the geometry of the the roadway was significant to where we needed people to slow down, and we saw a propensity of crashes in that area, we would be able to apply for a, I guess, in some instances, a variance to fall under other location.
The
The town, yeah, the traffic authority. And then we would apply to the Office of State Traffic Authority.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Representative Pistilli? No? Okay, then you don't have to go. Representative, who else has a question regarding this amendment? Representative Carroll.
Thank you.
Carroll District 8, Colin, I understand first the amendment. And I won't get into my whole firehouse rant. I was gonna save that till later. My children don't only go in school zones, and they don't go in pedestrian safety zones. They go everywhere. As the chief identified, if there's a true safety issue, I don't want our ordinance to limit their ability to go there. I want my kids, my neighbors, my friends, and some people come visit me from out of town. I want them safe, no matter where it is. So I think limiting it, and I'm not, some people don't like it. Some people don't like everything. So I think it's worth us keeping this thing as viable for the traffic. Police to say, we got a problem, we need to put cameras here. Not, we got a problem, but the ordinance limits us and our ability to do our job. I just don't think we should do that in this case. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Just gonna see if there's any other, Representative Steele.
FCL District 3, again, I really like this platform. I think that is a nice amendment in that by taking that away, like my understanding is this really is to start with schools and probably stay with schools. And I think First Selectman Gerber even said, certainly in the early days, there's no intention to go beyond schools. And maybe if it did, it goes to the pedestrian zone, which don't exist. And then the red light zones. So that's fine. Those are the areas we're trying to cover. But with schools being the primary, that's what we're really focusing on right now. So just as we can reverse this ordinance down the road, I heard someone say we can just cancel this ordinance if it doesn't work out. We can also add in other locations down the road if we determine we need to add in other locations. But couldn't we start with, like, if we're gonna start doing this, can't we start with these zones that are the zones discussed by the state? Start there, and if we need to add them, it still gets out of hand. Can't we then add that later and amend this ordinance further? So why don't we do that, just as you said, well, if this ordinance doesn't work out, we can just cancel it. I think it would certainly allay some of our concerns. I mean, this is a body that we're all trying to agree on something. Not gonna get full agreement, but it certainly would bring maybe more people into the fold by adding that, or by deleting that element, that component, and focus on those three areas. Really the two, the school, the red light, I think the stoplight. So I think the amendment makes sense, and it's like a, meeting in the middle to some degree.
Thank you. Any other questions on this amendment? Representative Pistilli.
Sheriff Pistilli, District 5, through you, Madam Moderator, to Representative Gabe. It's kind of boiling down what Chief Calamaris already said. We're already, like, the DOT already limits where we can put these cameras, correct? So it's not like we can put them all over town now. You just, like, some cliff note how limited it is?
Yes. Representative McCabe, District 4. I want to start by commending First Selectman Gerber and the body for recently passing an ordinance that put Fairfield on the map for reconfiguring our traffic authority by staffing it with traffic experts. Traffic safety is education, enforcement, and engineering. And when you have them all in one body, it means that they really are the experts on what the town can do on all traffic matters, including safety. As you know, the reason why we even have the ability to consider traffic cameras is because the state has enabled us the opportunity to do so. And as we have said at many meetings, the bar is extremely high and limited as to where you can put the cameras. Pedestrian zones are actually new by state statute, and like everything else, you have to submit an application to prove you can have one, which is why no one's done it yet. I think that for us to pass this amendment is to limit the ability of the body that we have just created, filled with experts, do their job in identifying the best sites to use these cameras. Right now, schools are the priority. You know that from state statute, if you were to pick an intersection with a traffic light, the bar is extraordinarily high. And you have to show not only crash data, but you also have to show that you have tried basically everything else that can possibly be done to intervene in this demonstrable high traffic incident area. So I very much appreciate the concern. I would also encourage the body to review the backup I had sent in January, a lot of data from other states that have done these traffic cameras. Yes, they work in some places and not in others for sure. Connecticut has the benefit of all of that data to create its own ordinance or state statute, I should say, that I think takes that into account. But I think that we should not pass this amendment, the ordinance as it is, to allow the traffic authority to do this job. Thank you.
Representative Longo.
I'm Melissa Longo, District 1. I just heard Chief Calamar's, thank you for being here to clarify some of our questions that we have tonight. This is important. Knowing that there was a little bit of generalization based upon other locations for speeding via the traffic authority, that to me clearly says that it's going to open up at some point. And if our concern is just for the school systems right now, and I also heard that we don't have pedestrian safety zones. Right. Thank you. So if we don't have pedestrian safety zones, that minimizes that right there per the state statute. And if we are wanting to start in school zones because we are concerned for our children, I don't see the problem in limiting that language and saying that this is only going to pertain to this, because once you pass an ordinance to go back and just say, oh, we can change it, it's not as easy as starting small and then expanding. So if we don't have enough data in this state, and I don't see the point in looking to California, to Massachusetts, their laws are not our laws. If we're going to compare, then we should compare to our own state, to our own towns, to our own cities, and compare it that way, considering we just found out that now there's 3 towns in the state of Connecticut who just passed this ordinance. That gives us that gives those towns up to about 10, 11 months to implement all of this, and nothing has been implemented. It's just been passed. So we actually have no idea where this is gonna head. I mean, we're going into this a little blind, and I don't see why we need to rush it, number one. Number two, if we are going to have someone who's an employee who's just strictly dedicated to taking the data from this third-party vendor, what is that gonna roll into our budget? Considering we're already looking at an increase in our budget, what extra for this said employee? Is it gonna be a part-time position, a full-time position?
I'm just gonna ask you to speak to the amendment.
It's part of the amendment. So this was just.
No, it's about employees. You can come back up after.
Sorry. Anyway, I guess my point is that we have 4 options where we can control the entire process. That was mentioned. But I'm feeling a little conflicted about that because as a town, I would hope that if this does pass, which I don't think it should, I don't think we have enough information right now, and
we're talking about the amendment.
I'm sorry, with the amendment, that would allow us to just and then we can go from there and see how it goes. 3 towns out of 169 towns have just approved this. Doesn't seem like it's something we need to jump into.
Representative McClough is online, I believe.
Yes, hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Megan McClure, District 2. I apologize first for not being there in person because I think this is a really important topic and I'm glad I have the opportunity to at least comment by the phone. I'm about to board a flight, but happy that the timing worked out that I could speak about it quickly. I want to speak to the amendment. First of all, in full transparency, I plan to support this whether or not the amendment passes. And that's for a specific reason that touches really close to home in my district, which I've shared with this body already. But I think the reason everybody really should take a pause and consider the emphasis of the amendment is that the best law that could get passed is a law that both sides could feel somewhat good about. And I think we still gain something if the verbiage of the amendment is passed that really could inform the future of how we really implement traffic safety changes in the town of Fairfield. And what I really respect about the concept of the amendment is that if passed in the verbiage proposed, it would give us an opportunity to have some metrics and data that we can then utilize as we build on expanding a program like this. As I've mentioned before, I feel very strongly that we have a major speeding issue in our town. And one thing that specifically speaks to the pertinent part of the school zones being the first targeted area is that, as everyone's aware in our town, we had 2 pedestrian fatalities on Reading Road within 2 years of each other, and both of them speed was a factor. What both of them, many people might not know, was also a factor is that both of the drivers had to pass through the area of Dwight Elementary, which would now be, in this point in time, an OSTA approved safety zone. So a little bit of something is better than nothing. And that's why I think supporting this entire ordinance is important for the future of how we're going to improve traffic safety in Fairfield. But I do think that the concept of an amendment and starting with something small is better than nothing and would make a whole lot of people in this town feel a little bit better about a big change. There's no denying that a major change like the original verbiage of the ordinance, if passed, would feel like a big shift in a very small period of time. If we start small, I think we build trust. We build trust with our constituents. We build trust with our police department to show the emphasis and the impact of something like this. And I think that that's really worthwhile. To me, that looks like good laws being made. So that's my comment on why I think the amendment should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the body regarding the Representative Estrada?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ken Astorita, District 1, and I do want to thank everybody who's worked on this ordinance. Michelle, committee, Chief, appreciate your efforts. I think the process has been well done. There've been a lot of questions, a lot of good questions, a lot of good information shared. This is an issue that I really have gone back and forth on, and I'd probably say even as I stand here.
Just reminding you, we're speaking about the amendment.
I just want to share my story with everybody. So I think this amendment helps move people like me in the direction of potentially supporting this bill for a couple of reasons. First, obviously, public safety is important, and I do think that there are ways beyond security cameras that we can do a better job of policing speeding, bad driving in town. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've seen bad, aggressive driving in just about every area of the town, not necessarily the school zone. And I know we want to make things safer, right? That's the whole goal. We want safety, particularly for our children. But if you go simply by the logic of safety, then the next step is, well, then we should put cameras in every place in the town where we could possibly put them. Every school, every traffic light, and any of these other areas that we think necessary, because that will make us all more safe, right? More cameras, more safety. But that's not something that we generally do in this country, because most people don't want to live their lives under constant surveillance from cameras. Lord knows it's bad enough with people walking down the streets with their phones. So I think when you put language limiting the ability to implement these cameras to certain places, I think that makes a lot of people who are leery about this to begin with feel a lot more comfortable.
So I am in support of the amendment and I hope everybody else in the body will be as well.
Thank you. Any other comments from the body regarding this amendment? Representative Colburn, if you want to talk, or if you want to let me give the public an opportunity to talk first. If anyone from the public would like to talk about this amendment, you could come up here. You have 2 minutes to talk about the amendment, not about the overall. Same thing online. If anyone, I don't see any public remaining. Okay, so Representative Colburn, do you want to speak again? Okay, yep.
I'll hold it as a date. There's a couple of points I want to address from the commentary. While I fully understand the intent and the intent behind what Representative Carroll said, I do have to say that I think reading through the tea leaves of what you said, I understand why there are people that are concerned about this ordinance in the current state. Because following your logic, it is what put these everywhere. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a total policed, camera operated state. I don't, and I don't think a lot of our residents would either. The second thing is that I think I'm very much like Representative Astorita on both sides. I don't know what I'm going to do right now, depending on how the amendment goes with the overall thing. But I think my big concern is that we keep treating it in the commentary like this is a panacea, and this is really like the way that I would think about it. If I really wanted this done, it's a tool in an overall toolbox, but I don't get that. I'm getting that from the commentary. I'm not getting that from the ordinance in its current state either. So I just don't believe that technology is the solution to a fundamental human behavioral problem that we have right now. It really, like, education is number one out of those E's for me, at least in what we can control. And I think limiting this to Representative McCloat's argument, I think limiting this in its current state is for the better, so that we can start small and expand if we so choose later on. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the body regarding the amendment? Okay, so we're going to take it to a vote. We're to amend 102-4, the first paragraph. We're going to strike the words "and other places." That's pretty much the summary of it. You want to read it?
I want to read it one more.
Yep. Just go up and read it again.
The amendment would have section 102.4 now read, pursuant to the authority granted in the Connecticut general statutes, the town of Fairfield hereby authorizes the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices at locations within school zones and pedestrian safety zones, provided that the locations of such devices are identified in a plan submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the statute.
Everyone, we're going to take it to a vote. So right now we're voting on the amendment. If you vote yes, you're voting yes for the amendment, not for the ordinance. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 I think we're going to do a roll call vote for the amendment. Town clerk.
Ben Astorita,
Yes.
Peter Britton,
Yes.
Melissa Longo,
Yes.
Brooks Barachino,
Yes.
Tara Cook Littman,
Yes.
Megan McCloat,
Yes.
Dave Rock,
No.
Bob Elwinger,
No.
Mike Hardigan,
Yes.
Jeff Steele,
Yes.
Cindy Waldron,
No.
Laura Carson,
No.
Sean McCabe,
No.
Marcy Spalier,
No.
Liz Esma,
No.
Josh Garskoff,
No.
Kristen O'Neill,
No.
Sharon Pastilli,
No.
Jay Wolk,
No.
Bob Blanchard,
Yes.
Donnie,
No.
Eric Juniak,
No.
Alex Ocampo,
No.
Steve Barretts,
Yes.
Lori Burns Galdenzi,
No.
John Kuhn,
No.
Scott Nickel,
No.
Lenny Bremen,
No.
Chris Carroll,
No.
Colin Colburn,
Yes.
Christine Ludwizak,
Yes.
Lisa Havey. No. Mark McDermott,
No.
Karen Wackerman. No. Matt Ambrose,
No.
Justin Contrado,
No.
Margaret Horton. No. Gary Ratsky.
No.
Amendment fails, 12 in favor, 26 opposed.
Thank you. We're gonna move back to the original motion as presented. I believe Representative Wackerman was next to discuss the motion.
Aaron Wacker, District 9. Through you, Madam Moderator, Chief. Chief, when we started working on this, you gave us.
Speak up a little bit.
Can't hear. Gave us about where, how this is working. Some of the, because there were some comments about how we don't know how this will go, but.
Sure.
There are.
Yeah. I have, there are other states that obviously use them, and Maryland was probably one that grabbed it and has been doing it the longest. They've seen a significant decrease in traffic crashes as a result. I think they started back in 2008 or 2009. Since then, Virginia, I think I went to a conference with the executive director of OSTA, Joe Willett, and he had some representatives from the Baltimore area, and they have 280 cameras, red lights and speeding cameras in their city, and it's been proven to reduce crashes and increase safety. And for anybody who's driven through Virginia or Maryland, and you go through those zones, everybody's driving the speed.
Representative Ambrose, I think your voice is on.
I think I understand the slippery slope concern that people have, and I understand the concern about big watching do. But I think this is a very conservative start. And the statute itself is has so many safeguards that that's what made me ultimately come working on it. So I hope that this will pass it. Thank you.
They get muted when they're.
Representative Ambrose, can you mute yourself, please?
That's spoken.
Sorry.
Oh, it's done. It's muted.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other Representative Britton?
Peter Whitten, District 1. My question would be about the state of Connecticut. Have we sort of discussed with other towns around the state of Connecticut? The thing that I get hung up on is, 2 or 3 cities, I guess, within the state are incorporating this out of 169. For Karen, what you're saying. And I just wonder within the state of Connecticut, if that has been addressed, is there a reason that maybe the other provinces, cities are not using it?
As you can see, it's a lot of work to get the ordinance passed and then to submit those applications up to OSTA. I would say at the Chief of Police Association, there is a lot of discussion. I can tell you Greenwich, I'll go up the line. Greenwich, Darien, Stratford, New Haven, Milford, Fairfield is proposing the ordinance. And you can go up to the Hartford area and you have all the cities surrounding the cities that are surrounding Hartford, they're all implementing the same. So I just don't think.
Are they looking at it? Is that what you're saying? All these towns are in the process?
In the process,
Doing
yes.
this?
Yes.
So any sense from other chiefs as to how that is going?
Well, you have some towns, I mean, Washington, Connecticut was the first to do it.
Yeah, I heard that.
They are the smallest, probably the smallest town. And I think some are waiting for others to implement it. And, I think it's a mixed bag.
Financial issue per se.
No, I don't think finances come into the equation. Because it's anticipated that the program will support itself from a financial perspective.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other Representative Ludwigson?
Christine Ludwigzak, District 8. I'm a co-sponsor on this ordinance, and I do want to thank Representative McCabe and Representative Wackerman and everyone who worked very hard on this, and Chief Calamares too for all of his answers to our many, many, many questions. I do have a piece I want to revisit regarding the cost of this program. I think we had discussed that the exact cost will vary depending on the vendor during that vendor selection process. And I did want to kind of just see if we might be able to have some language in the ordinance that will, go along with what we're assuming will be the financial piece. That we're expecting that the program will pay for itself, and that vendors will be assuming upfront costs. So they'll be taking the financial risk in terms of equipment and setup and installation costs to cover any fees if the location deems to be not cost effective. Or I guess maybe too safe, people aren't speeding in that location, then we're not having the violation fees. So it is something that would be a little bit more specific to a vendor contract that the traffic authority would be overseeing. However, it would make me feel more comfortable, and I would assume the constituents I've spoken to and those who have concerns over their tax dollars going toward speed cameras as opposed to additional law enforcement officers. And I can absolutely understand that, that concern and that argument. I think it's important to note that this program or this initiative is not an either or. It's not funding speed cameras as opposed to an additional officer. This is solely a tool for our law enforcement to have at their disposal to utilize, to better in safety. So it's not an either or, but I do want to make sure that, or I would like to see some language in our ordinance that specifies that it wouldn't be using, a significant portion, or if it were, what dollar amount are we seeing of tax dollars going toward this program or this initiative?
Representative Ludwigson, do you have an amendment, or do you want to ask through me to Attorney Pierce if he would have wording?
I do have an amendment, and I would love help with the language if anyone would love input. But I also do have an additional point to make. Should I go ahead with the amendment regarding this?
Your choice.
Yes, this first. Okay. Okay. So for the financial piece of this program, let me see. So toward this. So under section 102-76 vendors, I would like to, I'd make an amendment to insert the following language at the end of the last sentence there. So that that section ends with citations issued or fines paid pursuant to this article. So I would make the amendment to include the language, the town will make no upfront payment to vendor for purchase or installation of equipment, but rather these incurred charges will be paid to the vendor directly with revenue generated through citation payments during the initial stages of this program.
Do I have a second? Representative Colburn. Do you want to discuss any more or do you?
I think that is.
Marcy, could you just read that again?
Read it
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
like
go ahead.
slower
Yeah.
so that we.
Just the end.
And welcome any input for any other verbiage or language here, but the gist of it. So under section 102-76 for vendors, at the end of that paragraph, I would insert the language, the town will make no upfront payment to vendors for purchase or installation of equipment, but rather these incurred charges will be paid to the vendor directly with revenue generated through citation payments during initial stages of this program.
Thank you. Representative Garza.
Just take away their negotiating. You don't go up and down. You can't do this.
Trying to run the program themselves.
That's true.
One question, during initial stages, was that part of it?
Yes.
So what does that mean?
That thought process is that they would be redeeming the payment for their equipment and installation prior to us receiving any revenue from that, from the cameras. So I guess the thought would be that during that first month, they would receive payment for what they're due prior to the town receiving revenue from this program. So that it's not being funded by the taxpayers, but being funded by the program itself. We're hoping it will be doing in future years. I think the financial risk is initially taken on by the vendor, according to the conversations I've had. So I want to just make some language relevant to that.
Yeah, I understand. But I think we should be careful not to tie the hands of the negotiators of how it works. So if there's a way to phrase it, I'm not sure that the vendor takes their money first, or do they take a piece of every citation, or we don't really know exactly how that's gonna work. So I would propose that you try to frame your amendment in such a way that you make the general point without tying the hands of how it in fact might be orchestrated. That's my 2 cents. So I think your main.
Stab at it?
Well, not without
Yeah.
seeing it on paper, but I think your main point is you don't want the town to do this. You want an outside vendor to do this. Right? You don't want the town to invest in this stuff and to hire the staff. Well, we do have to hire staff, but you don't want the town to invest in the equipment. You want us to do a contract with an outside vendor.
Is it okay if I have Attorney Pierce come?
Yes, please.
And I just, that just.
Starting to dig a hole.
I am just looking to ensure that it's not something that the taxpayers are funding. We were advised that the financial piece, the vendor will do an assessment on the site to ensure that it's cost effective for violations received. So I just want to make sure, and then the program will fund itself. So we have some sort of language to that needs.
So, so the issue that I have with the language is that is the sentence immediately preceding it. And it's also required by statute that the vendor's fees cannot be contingent on the fines that are recovered. So I think the language basically requires that it's contingent. So I think that is inconsistent with the statute. I'm not sure that there is a way to do it where the fees are recouped directly from the fines, because that necessarily would make it contingent fines. I mean, could add that, but notwithstanding the foregoing, the town shall be responsible for the fines in the event that the fees are not sufficient, but that's against the intent of the amendment. So I don't think there's a way to meet the intent of your amendment and comply with the statute.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like to continue with the amendment or withdraw your amendment?
I guess I would love if there was some verbiage around how this program will be funded in this ordinance. And I guess I'm not.
First, Selectman Gerber, can you come up and speak to possibly how projects are funded of extreme value in our town? Like if it was value, how it would come out of our budget?
Well, I have to say, I haven't talked to vendors yet. It was my hope and intention that it would be not funded through any sort of capital investment, but we haven't really seen terms yet. So I can't really speak to that. I just think that in other towns and the way this has been discussed in the markets in general is that there are vendors out there that will basically set it up and you don't really have to do anything other than let them do their thing and give you, give your town the X amount of dollars per ticket. But I've also been told that if you so choose, you can run it yourself. So it wouldn't be my intention to do that. That's all I can say. Like, as long as I'm around, I would not be in favor of making an investment upfront.
Whereas we have that line item in the budget for the revenue that we'll be generating, do we have something allocating toward funding for like initial cameras? So if the, 6 cameras.
So I'm hoping and I expect that we will not be funding those, that's on the vendor. Otherwise we would have put something in. So it's not really our intention to fund the infrastructure.
Yeah. I guess I'm having that on record makes me.
Yeah, we expect it to be at least neutral and hopefully somewhat positive. I do have to say, the program should be reassessed at some point. I mean, from the data that I've, like in New York City, you should expect a big drop in ticketing, over a couple of years as people get used to, this and not wanting the speed. That's sort of the intended. That's what we hope happens.
We want it to be a successful program with nonprofit.
To be successful, it's not driven by the money, it's driven by the speeds. And so I think in New York, sort of they're seeing a 94% drop in people speeding in the areas where the cameras are. And that's a good thing. But I don't think it would be on our dime. Like, that would be the vendors saying, well, it's, we're not deploying our assets. We're not making money anymore. And maybe they wouldn't want to renew the contract. But other than that, I don't think we would lose money on that. But again, we haven't really seen those contracts yet. So, yeah.
It feels strange to almost be putting like the cart before the horse, but I understand that thought process. And I guess
I think we have to, in order to really start the process, we need the order.
That's recognizing that. Okay, I have 2 other points.
So are you going to withdraw the amendment?
I will withdraw that amendment.
Okay, yeah.
Recognizing that I appreciate and Selectman Gerber's response there with the intent of our financing and piece. I have 2 more points I wanted to bring up, please. I would, regarding the additional site locations for the cameras, I would like to see those they will be selected by the traffic authority. And I would like to see that the additional camera location sites come back before this body for final approval for being submitted for approval to the state. So I feel like that would, again, ease a lot of concern that I've heard regarding slippery slope with the cameras going into many different locations outside of school zones. There was 6 initial proposed locations. So I would love it if we could have, again, language in the ordinance recognizing that additional camera sites would come back before this body after the traffic authority, who is a wonderful commission of experts, as we think that they have a lot of expertise. Representative McCade advised. So I would love to see if we just can have that final approval and have means to discuss any additional cameras. So that said, I have an amendment to propose, please. It is.
Doesn't she sponsor?
I'd like to insert the following language under section 102-6 site selection. Currently, as written, it states the town traffic authority shall on annual basis review traffic violation, complaint reports, and accident data to determine additional sites for ATESD installation. I would like to add the language, any site selected by the traffic authority shall be approved by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as acquired by the statute.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Steele. Gonna call up Attorney Pierce just at the beginning to make sure that that's allowable before we have discussion on that.
I read the language one more time.
Any site selected by the traffic authority shall be approved by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the statute.
I don't think there's a reason you couldn't choose to have that language. Unless, I mean, Chief, do you have any?
No,
I don't have any.
It's not appropriate.
Okay, we'll take discussion on this.
Should you say it one more time?
One more time, sorry.
Sorry. Any site selected by the traffic authority shall be approved by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the statute.
Thank you. I'm gonna take comments from the body on this motion or amendment. Is there any comments? Representative Steele.
Jeff Steele, District 3. I like that amendment. I think, like Representative Colburn's earlier amendment, appeals to some of us who may overall oppose this. It makes it a little more appealing in that it adds that extra check and balance by this body. All of you, all of us would be able to check and approve of those locations. So I think that's an important check and balance that I don't think delays it any further. I think just to have another body, if we can approve this ordinance now, then we could approve the, so I think it's all right, good at that.
Thank you. Are there any other, Representative Wackerman?
Karen Wackerman, District 9. I'm opposed to this amendment because the traffic authority is created to make these decisions. So I don't know why we would then redo their instead of moving or not. Maybe they report to us so we know whether there are missing changes. Lines coming out all over town, and as Representative Rasky suggested, we fill the. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to be approving some traffic light should be after the traffic authority, which is the experts has already made that decision.
Thank you. Are there any other Representative Estrada?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ken Estrada, District 1. I just want to take the opposite view of Representative Wackerman and Karen. This is, not anything here, but we're not experts on expenditures for like the WPCA either, but we're asked to approve those kind of expenses. So I don't think that necessarily being experts in a given matter precludes us from providing our approvals for something like this. So yeah, for somebody who's on the fence like me and like this, so it makes it a lot more palatable. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other Representative Karst?
Person District 4. I just want to say that we are not the traffic authority, and that's what we created this for, to really give people with expertise to look at this. And why are we going to choose this particular item to give the okay to, when maybe we should do that with everything they have to decide? Where do we draw the line of when the traffic authority presents and votes on something, then we should then have the authority to, again, approve that. So I just think that it's a slippery slope, and I really believe that the traffic authority has enough weight and expertise to if they really feel an area is dangerous and they want to expand it on that one, I would defer to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this amendment from the body? Representative Longo.
Hi, Melissa Longo, District 1. I like the amendment, and Representative Astorita kind of said it clearly. We are experts on many of the things that come across this body. We're here to vote on those items. And so I think that to just give all the weight to the traffic authority, we're supposed to go through everything and approve it. We're supposed to take what they say, consider it, and vote on it. So I don't see how this would be any different. So I would feel as somebody who's I'm opposed to this whole thing. When Christine, I was kind of on the fence, to be honest. So I know that Colin's amendment didn't get approved, but things like this kind of would help for those of us in our constituents to kind of see that there are a little bit of guardrails, and would make me maybe look at this a little bit differently, but it's definitely something to consider. So I appreciate that. I might not agree 100% on it, but I think that it's a good start for those of us who are still kind of, wavering a little bit. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Cole?
Colburn, District 8, I'll be quick. I think what we're doing with some of these amendments is at the end of the day, we want to be able to draw a line to make everyone in the community more comfortable. I know that the majority of this body is probably comfortable with this. I don't think that is reflective of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
I don't think that it's reflective of the town's.
Said it doesn't reflect, he said the majority of the body is likely approves
favor
this,
of
but
this.
it's not reflective of the town. Any other representatives speaking about this amendment? Representative Bransky.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Uransky District 10. I just wanted to note that the last section of the ordinance, section 2-17, has a reporting requirement. Traffic Authority has to prepare reports for the Board of Selectmen and for our body with ample information in it about the implementation, the number of violations, et cetera, and will attend the June meeting if so requested of this body. So I think that's an ample opportunity to ask questions about this, follow up, and exercise our duty of oversight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this amendment from the body? Any public comment regarding this amendment? All right, we're gonna take up
To it real quick.
Oh, yes, go
Just
ahead.
one more follow-up. Again, I completely understand the hesitations. I do have confidence in the traffic, right? Again, I do think a lot of the constituents that have concerns about cameras in town, I guess becoming more and more cameras as opposed to being in specific places that are. So I think that would help with their concerns, and this verbiage was taken from the ordinance in Stamford as they're having their body approve after their traffic authority provides them with the expertise of the sites that are in need of those cameras. They then have that final decision and oversight, again, for more of a checks and balances. So I liked that idea that they were seeing things through and again, having additional oversight.
Don't close it. I'm gonna have you read it one more time.
Their board of representatives, yes. Stanford's board does approve it. They're represented for after selected by the party. Okay, so read one more time. Yeah. Okay, so section 102-6 site selection. I would propose additional language at the end of the sentence would read, any site selected by the traffic authority shall be approved by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the statute.
Yes, Representative. Their procedure or?
No, a matter of language. Is that okay? I do not support the amendment, but language-wise shall be approved by the RTM. I don't think we want to tell the RTM that we have to approve it. I'm worried that that language sounds like this RTM shall approve this. And I think we might want to tweak the language to say something like is subject to approval by the RTM.
Can you elaborate, Josh, on that?
Well, can you read it again? Sorry, like for the 12th time.
Any site selected by the traffic authority shall be approved by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted. So in order to be submitted to the Connecticut state, we need to approve it first. But I think I understand what you're saying, is subject to approval prior to submitting to the state.
That's my.
Okay, but that makes perfect sense to me.
That's fine.
So if we want to do that, we need an
So,
amendment.
yeah, I make a motion to amend the amendment.
And do I have a second? Representative Estrada. Is there any, so we're gonna have any comment on the amendment to the amendment? Okay, so now we're gonna vote on the amended. We're gonna vote on the amendment. Or is whether we're gonna amend the amendment. Okay, we're not voting on the amendment, but we're voting on the language to the amendment, okay?
Good catch, Josh. I like.
All those in favor of amending the amendment, am I doing this correctly?
Yes. Sure.
All those in favor of amending the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nope.
Representative McCabe, Representative Ambrose, I know. Wait a minute, please. Okay, we're gonna do a roll call, sorry.
This is changing
Yes, so this is,
subject to approval to shall to subject to approval.
we're changing the wording of shall to subject to approval.
You better. Voice vote.
Okay, voice vote.
Voice vote.
Roll call.
Roll call. Canestrita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it me? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Brooke Spirituino.
Yes.
Tara Cook Littman.
No.
Megan McClure.
Yes.
Dave Rock.
Yes.
Bell Winger.
No.
Mike Hardigan.
Yes.
Jeff Steele.
Yes.
Cindy Waldron.
Yes.
Laura Carson.
No.
Sean McCabe.
No.
Marcy Spallier.
Yes.
Liz Esma.
No.
Josh Garskoff.
Yes.
Kristen O'Neill.
Yes.
Sharon Pistilli.
No.
Jay Walk.
No.
Rob Blanchard.
Yes.
Nancy Donnie.
Yes.
Eric Juniak.
No.
Alex Ocampo.
Yes.
Steve Barretts.
Yes.
Lori Geldenzi.
No.
John Kuhn.
Yeah.
Pat Nickel.
No.
Lenny Brayman.
Yes.
Chris Carroll. Alan Colburn. Christine Ludwizak. Lisa Havey. Mark McDermott.
Yes.
Karen Wackerman.
Yes.
Matt Ambrose.
No.
Justin Contrado.
No.
Margaret Horton.
Yes.
Kara Ratsky.
Yes.
That amendment passes 25 in favor, 13 opposed.
So now we pass the wording to the amendment. So now we are going to consider the amendment as changed in the wording. So do we have the correct language as amended?
Any site selected by the traffic authority, subject to approval by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the state.
Is there any further comment on this motion to amend? Representative Volk.
Moderator Jay Wolf, my question is, why have a traffic authority? If we're gonna approve them, they're the experts. For them to come back to us to ask, for us to approve where these cameras should go and just, we should just leave it for them. That's where I'm at.
Is there any other comments regarding this amendment? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Steele.
Jeff Steele, District 3, just in response to the last comment. There are many things where the first body that brings it to us does all the research and the legwork. The traffic authority, nothing's being undercut. They're doing all the work. They're doing all the legwork. They're doing all the research. They're doing that work that then gets presented to us, just like in the budget, just like all the departments, the Board of Finance, everything comes to us. Most things come to us for final say. And again, no, we're not necessarily the experts on everything, but we are the final check and balance for what gets voted on financially for anything in this town. And for large budget items, for ordinances, we are that final check and balance. And I don't think this is any different. We're not saying we know better than the traffic authority, but we also don't necessarily know better than the Board of Finance either, but it still comes to final approval. I just think we've put forth 3 common sense amendments that doesn't soften it, but it allows us to all agree on this. Doesn't kill it, doesn't wreck the intention of it. Just 3 things where we can all come together on. 2 are rejected or withdrawn, and it just seems like this would be a proper amendment for this body to just approve something that we're a little unsure of and how that's gonna evolve. So I approve, I like it.
Thank you. Representative Pistilli.
Sharon Pistilli, District 5. My comment is regarding the amendment, but also regarding this ordinance has been under consideration for months and it's been in front of LNA previously. And so I feel like if we're going to have amendments that are substantive, that they should have been brought up with more time for us to be able to review them.
Any other comments regarding this amendment? Okay, we're gonna have Representative Levick read it one more time.
Any site selected by the traffic authority is subject to approval by the representative town meeting and subsequently submitted to and approved by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as required by the statute.
Thank you. We're gonna take it to a vote. We're gonna do a roll call vote
Yes.
on the amendment.
Peter Britton,
Yes.
Melissa Longo,
Yes.
Brooke Spiracino,
Yes.
Tara Cook Lippman,
No.
Megan McCloud,
Yes.
Dave Rock,
Oh, no, sorry, no.
Wait, not off.
Bob Elwinger,
No.
Mike Hardigan,
Mike's in the boys.
Jeff Steele,
Yes.
Cindy Waldron,
No.
Laura Carson,
No.
Michelle McCabe,
No.
Marcy Spalier,
No.
Liz Esma,
No.
Josh Garskoff.
No.
Kristen O'Neill,
No.
Sharon Pistilli,
No.
Jay Walk,
No.
Rob Blanchard,
No.
Nancy Donnie,
No.
Eric Druniak,
No.
Alex Ocampo,
No.
Steve Barrett,
No.
Lori Bart, Skell Denzi. No. John Kuhn,
No.
Scott Nickel,
No.
Lenny Brayman,
No.
Chris Carroll,
No.
Colin Colburn,
Yes.
Christine Ludwizak,
Yes.
Lisa Havey, Mark McDermott,
No.
Aaron Wackerman,
No.
Matt Ambrose,
No.
Justin Contrado,
No.
Margaret Horton,
No.
Pierre Ratsky,
No.
Mike Hardigan.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Levick.
Last but not least,
One more, and then see if anyone else.
and I think this one, maybe I will ask Phil to speak to. I think he knows that I was inquiring about regarding the citation hearing in section 102-121. In section B, the cited person may contest his liability within 10 days of citation by delivering in person or by mail written notice of his request to have a citation hearing. I think that a 10-day turnaround is a very tight timeframe between the postal delivery service, reviewing your mail, receiving it, and generating your response for the opportunity to appeal the citation. So I was looking to amend wording to be to increase up to 10 business days. I would hope we might all agree on that, but it sounds like it might not be something that the state would permit given our statute.
I'm sorry, I think there was some communication today between you and Representative McCabe and Attorney Pierce and Calamaris that said that we couldn't do that. We couldn't change that.
Right, I think that we were to defer to the town attorney. So is that a confirmation that we cannot? I didn't see that.
Yeah, just gonna have him go.
So, so that 10-day period is contained in the general statute that involves citation here. So it's a general statute 7-152C. The subsection A is the authorization of the municipality to enter into to create ordinances that impose the citation hearing process, and that statutory section D requires it to be 10 days. So I don't think we have the discretion to vary from the statute.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the body regarding this amendment, not amendment, I'm sorry, the original motion as worded? I'm going to move to the public now. Members of the public, if you want to come up, state your name, your address. I'm going to give you all 2 minutes to speak. We appreciate you coming out.
Sarah Mason, 15 Fife Road. First, I'm also the chair of the pedestrian committee, and we sent a letter to the body in support of adopting this ordinance. I also personally urge you to pass the ordinance tonight. We recently, as a town, made a Vision Zero pledge, which formalized our commitment to achieving zero road fatalities and serious injuries. The Vision Zero network outlines a safe systems approach to road safety, and a key component of that approach focuses on reducing speeding. Simply put, the higher speed a car travels, the more likely a person is injured or killed when hit by the car. Speed cameras are an effective and reliable tool as a supplement to traditional enforcement. Studies show that speed cameras work. They deter violations and ensure consistent and fair enforcement and improve compliance with traffic laws. They do this because people think that they are there and the drivers change their behaviors. School zones are one of the approved areas for implementing speed cameras locally. We currently have 6 approved school zones, and the LTA recently approved applications submitted by the Fairfield Police Department for 10 more. I walk my children to school almost 3/4 of a mile along Mill Plain Road frequently, and drivers disregard speed limits constantly and are often driving distracted. That's just how it is. It's my opinion that approving this ordinance is a no-brainer. It will simply make people slow down in front of our schools where our children are walking, or they will be held accountable for speeding in those zones.
Perfect. Thank you.
I had one more thing. Can I?
Yep.
30 seconds. Lastly, I was recently on a safety planning committee call with MetroCog, which is our regional planner. And on the call, Megan Jane, our town engineer, was presenting the recent Reading Road roundabout, and Fairfield was hailed as a leader in implementing traffic calming measures. And I want Fairfield to continue to be that leader if it's the 4th, 5th town and not the 104th town. So I urge the RTM to keep the forward momentum going and vote to support the measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other members from the public that would wish to speak? Great, just come up. Hi, Sarah again. Another Sarah. Your name and your address.
Yes. Hi, my name is Sarah Roy, and I live at 3 Buena Vista Road. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of adopting automated traffic enforcement safety device plan in Fairfield. And thank you for all your hard work on this. Very much deeply appreciate it. Quickly, I want to address 2 points. 1 point actually, because someone else is going to address the other point. Someone brought up, what is the alternative to the speed cameras? It's more enforcement. There's an alternative that was not mentioned, and that would be road design. If we want people to follow the rules of the road, we have to make it impossible for them not to. And the most effective way to do that is through road design. And when you make it mostly about personal behavior and the individual, the accountability flows one way, and it's always downhill to the person driving, walking, or biking, and not to the road design that they are trying to navigate, or the logic or lack thereof behind the transportation system itself. So I would love to hear this body talk more about road design, and our amazing new LTA can guide you through that. And I also have some awesome guidebooks if you guys ever want to have a book club. Have fun book club. So I'm going to get into my little spiel here. So we pride ourselves on being a safe, vibrant community, but reckless driving and red light violations put pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists at risk every day in Fairfield, especially around our schools where children and families walk and bike during peak travel hours. The truth is, speeding is culturally acceptable in this country. When my son was at Stratfield School, we walked across Route 59 every day. Even with 2 crossing guards, speeding drivers often didn't stop. I had to carry and wave this bright orange signal flag just to make sure we were seen. Parents shouldn't have to go to these lengths to try to keep their kids. And we shouldn't have to try to sell safety measures to decision makers because these are measures that need to be taken to protect people walking, biking, and driving, full stop. To those who would question speed cameras in regards to privacy rights, worrying that this is a big brother type of measure, I'd like to remind you that when driving on a public...
Kind of wrap it up.
Oh, okay, all right. So this cannot be about Big Brother or nostalgia. It must be about evolving to protect our community. Fairfield's character isn't frozen in time. It's shaped by how we plan for our future. We're here tonight as residents with the vision and courage to support speed cameras and protect people walking, cycling, and driving. We're asking you, our elected leaders, to share that vision and courage and take action to make our roads safer by bringing speed cameras to Fairfield.
Thank you. Any other members from the public?
Judy Proctor, 428 Pequot Avenue. And first, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that the state of Connecticut has been, since 2023, implementing speed cameras to construction zones and on the highway. And they're very successful, and so they expand that program. Just to make sure you know that. And then I just wanted to address some concerns about funding. And so here's what's important. The vehicle is going 20 miles an hour and hits a pedestrian, the pedestrian lives. Higher speeds equals injuries and fatalities. And the actual costs of those injuries and deaths are found in the fees from first responders, emergency medical personnel, police, lawyers, funeral homes, and cemeteries. And our own Lieutenant Paris spent years with the family of Marilita Arroyo, who died on Reading Road. And the emotional costs to all these people, plus the grief of family, friends, and community is not measurable as it is too great. And I should also mention that the cost to our world of a life that should have been. Speed cameras simply reduce speeding and decrease speeds, save lives. So thank you in advance for your road, and thank you, Michelle McCabe, for all your work and your committee.
Judy. Any other comment from the public?
Good evening. My name is David Joyce. I live at 923 Morehouse Highway. I'm in favor of this vehemently. And just 2 points I wanted to make regarding Representative, state your name?
Ludwig Zach.
No, behind you.
Hardigan.
Regarding data privacy. These vendors go through what's known as a systems organization control audit, a SOC 2 audit. It's very intensive. I've worked with vendors before. I worked for a consulting company. It's not only do they have to create policies and procedures to protect personally identifiable information, they get audited annually and their customers can audit them. Okay, so everybody can feel safe that that data is safe. The second thing is we talk a lot about here revenue, right? Paying for this, but the other side of the income statement is cost avoidance. I think one of the most dangerous things that a police officer can do during his daily work shift is a traffic stop, right? Having a police officer not have to make those traffic stops, I think is a real benefit to the community and certainly to those officers. We also talk about safety, right? Which increases the desirability of the town of Fairfield, increases your property tax, or not your does increase your property. Increases your property value, increases your property taxes. Not the worst thing in the world, but it also makes our town more desirable. Businesses want to relocate here, residents, other people want to relocate here. So I think it's a win-win. And like I said, it's not just a revenue play. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Don't see any. I'm going to come back to the body. Is there anyone that would like to speak again? Okay, we're going to take it to a vote. We're voting on the ordinance for cameras. We're going to take a roll call.
Dan Astorita,
No.
Peter Britton,
Yes.
Melissa Longo. Brooks Barachino.
Yes.
Tara Cook Littman,
Yes.
Megan McCloud,
Yes.
Dave Rock,
Yes.
Nope.
I did say yes.
Right here.
like a ventriloquist story. Bill Wenger,
Yes.
Mike Cardigan,
No.
Jeff Steele,
No.
Cindy Waldron,
Yes.
Laura Carson,
Yes.
Jill McCabe,
Yes.
Marcy Spalier,
Yes.
Liz Asma,
Yes.
Josh Garskoff.
Yeah.
Kristen O'Neill,
Yes.
Sharon Pistilli,
Yes.
Jay Wolk,
Yes.
Rob Blanchard,
Yes.
Nancy Donnie,
Yes.
Kurt Juniak,
Yes.
Alex Ocampo,
Yes.
Steve Barretts,
Yes.
Lori Geldenzi,
Yes.
John Kuhn,
Yes.
Scott Nickel,
Yes, please.
Lenny Bremen,
Yes.
Chris Carroll,
Yes.
Colin Colburn,
No.
Christine Ludwizak.
Yes.
Lisa Havey.
Yep.
Mark McDermott,
Yes.
Karen Wackerman,
Yes.
Ed Ambrose,
No.
Justin Contrado,
Yes.
Margaret Horton. Yes. Pierre Ratsky,
Yes.
ordinance passes 32 in favor, 6 opposed.
Thank you and congratulations to the sponsors and thank you for the public to come out. We're going to move on to the supplemental. Item number 12, to hear, consider, and act upon the following amendments to the vehicles and traffic ordinance, chapter 102 of the town code, to take effect as of July 1st, 2025, sponsored by Dave Rock, District 2, and Liz Zesma, District 4. The title of Article 1 of Chapter 102 is hereby amended as follows. Article 1, Parking Authority, Operation of Vehicle, Section 102-1, Creation of Authority, Purpose is hereby repealed. Do I have a motion? Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Wackerman. I added this supplement last week. LNA placed it on their agenda with a 2/3 vote and voted this ordinance out of committee last Tuesday on 2/18. Placing this on the supplemental is just timely. The administration asked us to do it timely. If we choose not to vote on this item tonight, we'll need a motion to postpone it to a date certain. If we choose to vote on this ordinance tonight, then we will need a motion to waive Rule 32 and for that motion to pass with a 2/3 vote. First, I'm going to ask Selectman Gerber or David Becker, our Chief Operating Officer, one of them to come on up and give us a little information about why they would support us passing the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to, my opinion is that this should be postponed till next month. It was never really our intention to pass this tonight. That would be disrespectful, I think, to this body. But I'm willing to talk about, but quick moment of privilege, watching the debate, although it was long, on the automated traffic cameras. I have to say this body has become a model of constructive debate for all elected bodies in this town. It is so incredibly civil and so much mutual respect. I just felt felt a little homesick, but I would just like to thank all of you for being a model for town government. On this particular item, the reason we have a lot of reasons for wanting to do this. When I first took office, met with some very fine people who are running the authority, but it is it's sort of the way the authority is run. I don't think it's the way it's run as it may have been envisioned. Most like cities with traffic authorities have a significant number of assets. They have parking garages, probably multiple parking garages, multiple parking lots. They may have on-street parking, like metered parking, where it justifies, the revenue justifies a true organization, where with their own sort of own DPW type people. As a matter of fact, I know people who work in that capacity in some cities in the state. Most of them were introduced to me by Sarah Roy, who's sitting over there. But you know, in Fairfield, what it has not evolved into a true authority in that there are just two parking lots, the Southport train station lot and the Fairfield Center lot. What that means is we have 2.5 FTE sitting in town hall, relying on other departments to help them out when they can. And in my opinion, a lot of things fall through the cracks because they just don't have the resources to make them happy, and do rely on DPW people, buildings people. If they happen to be free, then they might go and clean up trash at, at the parking lot. They don't have their own, they don't have the resources to have their own oversight structures. So, things like purchasing policies and procedures, they're not part of the town's purchasing authority. They are not part of the legal review of our town attorney. They don't get audited. And so what I found after a few meetings with them is that, yes, they are a good group, and the people on the authority are excellent. And there are a couple of very impressive lawyers on that authority. That it's what I described in my write-up, it's betwixt and between. It is not, they don't have the resources to actually, run like many of our town departments do with oversight. And what I would like is to sort of make them no longer an authority that is self-governing, but sort of more like, town employees, so that we can ensure that DPW has responsibilities and purchasing and legal, and have the responsibilities that they would have for any other asset of the town. And that's really the gist of it. We have some examples of, actually a lot of complaints about trash built up on some of our lots, and why isn't anyone picking it up? It took a while to investigate that. We couldn't figure out who was actually responsible for it for a while, and it turned out it's sort of an arrangement with a DPW person to come every Monday morning for a couple of hours and clean up. I think our residents sort of deserve something a little more structured to make sure that the potholes are fixed and the trash is picked up, and we do that. At least we hope to do that in other parts of town. And right now we have no real power over that for the other things like IT. Want to make sure that any programs that the parking authority uses for like reading parking license plates, that it's done in a way that's compatible with the town's controls and things like that. So, and it should be integrated with the town's other software programs. Any question? Can I ask a question?
Are there any questions, Representative Estrada?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ken Astrida, District 1. Just full disclosure, I was in LNA, so I got a little bit of this. last week, but Bill, I just, three questions just in prep, and you don't have to answer these now, just in preparation for next month's meeting. I would like to hear from the parking authority, because I would like to get a better understanding of exactly what they do, because to be honest, I really don't know what they do. Second thing, if you could put together like a cost justification of where potential savings are, that sort of thing. So we make sure that something like this isn't actually gonna cost the town money. And then the last thing, if we could get an explanation on are there any state statutory requirements with respect to the disposition of the funds? Can it be, general budget, or does it have to be set aside for specific purposes? Again, you don't have to address them now, just for next week.
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the answers to that, and Phil has looked into some of that, but if you wanted to sort of wait, or do you want to? Okay, you talk about it.
So the statutes require that the funds that are existing at the time that the parking authority is terminated or trust funds, and I'll email this statute to Marcy. To the extent the funds were collected from meters, I don't think we have any to be used to like maintain meters. To the extent that they were collected from parking rates or like charges from parking in a lot, they have to be used to maintain the lot. So that would be basically a trust account for that purpose that the town would have to draw down until it's spent to operate the lot.
So it can't go into the general fund, it has to be earmarked for the
Historic funds. On a going forward basis, there's no restriction because the authority wouldn't exist, but the historic funds would not go to the general fund.
I can give a little preview of that, so if we look at the financials, they have netted about $100,000 each year, and there's no intention to let anyone go because the people doing the jobs everyone thinks they're doing a good job. So, they are sitting in town hall, and they would continue to sit in town hall, and they would continue to issue the permits. I think there'd be very little difference in the way it operates now. I think we should consider converting the people on the authority who are very talented and good people into something like a committee, so that we continue to get regular feedback from people. I mean, they're mainly users of the train system. You want to make sure that, I would imagine customer service was probably one of the reasons it was formed in the first place.
You, Mr. Becker, do you have anything to add with the financials? I know you have.
Yeah. Just from a brief perspective on it, it's not entirely a question about whether or not there's going to be some sort of recognized savings. I think over time that's entirely possible. Better educated departments, instances where they're utilizing vendors, where only public works can do those types of things and can work through those over time. One of the things here is that even if it was essentially neutral, which is about where it is, the $100,000 amount referenced last year and the year before was only. But even running a neutral, part of what we're trying to do right off from day one is also provide a little bit better of an overall service. And I think one of the concerns is being a little bit disjointed from the town has created a bit of an issue. Trash being one of the items, also some interactions with the department related to the software and with the special police officers' work. So there's some improvements. And I think that one of the challenges that we oftentimes are faced with, not just with the parking, but more broadly, government is, with oftentimes, no additional dollars or fewer and fewer dollars, how to still always be able to consistently deliver a better and better product wants from town. So this instance on day one, we're hoping that we can deliver some of a better product, partially to the commuters, but also all the people who do still use the lot on the weekends and drive past Carter Henry Drive, the way things are kept up.
You, Representative Steele.
Jeff Steele, District 3. I would also just request if you could have someone from the Parking Commission, which is a 5-person volunteer organization. as well as someone from the parking authority, so we can hear those sides. I think that parking commission plays a big role in that customer service element in terms of being the pulse of the, I commuted years and very familiar with the value they bring. So I would like to hear someone from the commission too, because there's two different things, the authority and the commission. So I would just request that.
And I talked to a member of the commission yesterday and Eileen Flora, who runs the authority. And they, you know, I think they couldn't come tonight, but I also told them that it might be more useful for them to come next month.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments, buddy? Representative Wackerman?
Erin Wackerman, District 9. I'd like to make a motion to postpone this until next month's meeting.
So you're gonna make a motion to postpone to our March 31st meeting?
Yes.
Point of order.
I just wanted, I will point that order. So postponing it to next meeting doesn't waive Rule 32 because it has to sit on our agenda. So if we were to consider it next month, we would still have to waive Rule 32 in order to vote on it next month.
So can I amend my motion to waive Rule 32 and postpone this until the next month?
We do that.
I think, is that?
Madam Moderator, I don't know if anything's needed. This is, and Phil, I think this just naturally goes to next meeting and we discuss it next meeting. I don't think a motion to postpone.
I think it needs to postpone it because of the way it's worded on there,
It's an ordinance related item that would naturally go,
but it's worded to act on.
but it could only be acted on.
I don't have a strong feeling either way. I think you could probably do it either way, because it can hold over. I mean, it is required to hold over anyway.
I just don't think anything's needed. It's just we come back next
And
month.
the figure doesn't speak how it's placed on the agenda. Right? It just says it has to be on the agenda.
If we wanted to waive, if we didn't want to waive Rule 32, when would we be able to vote on this without waiving Rule 32?
Correct, April. So you also don't have to waive Rule 30 tonight to put it on the agenda if you want to do a motion to postpone.
I just don't think anything's needed. I respect what you
No, I think you're
require.
right. I withdraw.
discuss it next
Okay, great. Any other comments on this? All right, any public comments on this while you're here? All right, the last item on our agenda is to consider and act upon any other matters presented to said meeting and which may be properly acted upon under the town meeting. I just want everyone to know who didn't get a Board of Ed budget book today. I will be getting more. I thought they were putting all 40 out, so some of you didn't. I will send a notice when I know people are available. Also, the town budget book should be available, I believe, next week. Hopefully, I think next week or the next week at the earliest, they'll be available. I will let you know when that happens as well. Representative matter of
Yeah, it's about the books. They said if we took a list of who doesn't have. Maybe. Like, cause I figured out a whole bunch.
you want to come up and give me your name that you didn't get a book, go great. Any other matters to be presented? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Representative Nichols, seconded by Representative. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. See everyone in March. Thank you.
Recording stopped.